Hey guys, Bennett Fitch here and welcome to another Nori unboxing. Okay, today guys we have a great product. This is the AMETEK Spectro Scientific LaserNet 230. It's part of the 200 series. Some of you know it as the LaserNet Finds or LNF. So this device, it's been around for about 20-25 years and it's been a mainstay as part of the, not just AMETEK Spectro's product, but also one of the components of the Mini Lab 53 or 153. So let's kind of get into it. Okay, so as I was taking this all out and unboxing it, you can see there's an ultrasonic bath. We'll talk about that in a second. But it's really straightforward. All of it's in one unit here. It's connected to the software so that we'll show you in a second how the particles will pass through the flow cell. But it's really easy to use. Once you have a sample, here I got a sample over here. Let's say I just took this sample from a machine. It's a pretty dark oil, but that's okay. It'll work here. And this tube here, this is called the sipper tube. We can lift it up, put the sample of oil underneath after I open this and bring it back down into the sample. And there's a peristaltic pump there that starts to rotate to pull the oil through the different cells in there to monitor for wear particles and also give you that image that we'll talk about here in a second. So it's really straightforward. You can watch some videos online that give you more visuals of how to operate this, but within a minute or two you have it done. Okay, so it's important to note that the LaserNet Finds, this method here, is using direct imaging particle counting. And the importance there is based on the ASTM standard 7596 that is allowing this tool here to automatically categorize the particles based on how they're produced, especially if they're wear debris particles. So like I said earlier, individual images are taken, but the most important thing first is to detect whether or not we have an increasing amount of particles. So that's the particle count. Okay, so before you take your sample, you will be agitating it, let's say 30 seconds or a minute. Make sure you're consistent with how you do that. You can also use an automatic agitator, but after you agitate the sample, it's really important to put it in the ultrasonic bath like you see over here. And this will allow those air bubbles to become dislodged because you're going to create a little bit of entrained air as you agitate it. That's okay, but you need to release those air bubbles. And do it for about 30 seconds on the ultrasonic bath. No more, because the longer you do that, it actually can cause the debris within it to actually go down, which takes away from our goal here to keep it homogenized. Once that's done, you're ready to put the sipper tube into the bottle, and it runs through different sensors. The first is a ferrous monitor, and that's mostly going to focus on wear debris larger than about 25 microns. The second one is a really important one. This is where the laser light's going to shine through the flow cell to take a picture with a CCD chip on the other side, take a picture of every single particle. These particles are going to have, maybe circular shape or long shape or curves or different things. They all mean different things. It could be cutting wear, it could be abrasive wear, and even if it's an air bubble, it can identify that and remove that from the equation so it's not interference anymore. And so when it's doing that, we're going to use those shapes to classify it, but we're also counting the particles to give us a particle count. It's the same kind of particle count we might see with an optical particle counter, which looks at 4, 6, and 14 microns. But this is not an optical particle counter in the way that you're familiar with, because it's able to remove some of those interferences much more effectively. And the third cell here, a third technology, is looking at the total ferrous debris. It's another magnetometers to parts there to that will look at the total ferrous content. And then when we're able to look at the large wear debris over 25 microns and compare that to the total, it gives us a sense of whether or not this is normal wear, abnormal wear, or perhaps severe wear, which is really important as you trend that data from sample to sample. Okay, so I'm looking at some of the data here. One thing you'll notice that's different with how this data is presented, optical particle counter gives you just the overall concentrations at those different sizes, but that doesn't give you the shapes, doesn't give you those parameters of what the particle could be. So that's what's different here. But it's also looking at the ferrous debris. So some of the ways they show this is with a wear particle concentration, or WPC. That's the total ferrous debris. There's also a percentage of large ferrous particles, or PLFP, and that's the large ferrous debris, larger than, let's say, 25 microns, over the total ferrous debris. And the third one here is an overall severity called the Ferrous Wear Severity Index, or FWSI. And that's going to be the large particles multiplied by the total to give you a trend on whether or not that value is going up over time to indicate a severity of wear. So that's really important to see those distinctions along with just simply a particle count. And then you're able to look at the particles themselves through those silhouettes. Now, all of that's very important because a lot of you are familiar with maybe seeing data in the traditional ICP or RDE, which will give you the total iron content or other elements, of course. It's an elemental spectrometer technology. But those will only see particles less than about 5 or 6 or 7 microns. This doesn't have that limiting factor. It can see the larger ones as well and then put that onto a report with the images. So there's some advantages to this approach with direct imaging particle counting versus the optical particle counter or RDE and ICP. Of course, sometimes you use multiple technologies to give you a really good idea what's going on. So let's talk about where you might see this in use. I mentioned maybe mining industry or power generation. Those are examples where taking the oil samples on the critical machines are important to see that trend over time to catch those problems. Not just a detection of an increase of particles, but to tell us what exactly is in there with ferrous debris or something else. And you want to maybe take consideration into some samples being taken, let's say on automotive equipment or engine oils, let's say, like I said here with this dark oil here. It's able to monitor even the soot level up to about 2% soot in the sample because of the way the laser light is shining onto the CCD chip through the flow cell. So there's a lot of various ways in which we can monitor different parameters depending on what the oil type is. Is it a turbine oil? Is it an engine oil? Is it a hydraulic fluid? Hydraulic fluids definitely need to be monitored to make sure that the contamination levels are as low as reasonable for those applications because they can be sensitive to contaminants. So as you are implementing contamination control solutions, whether it's with better filtration, whether it's with better breathers or other devices, you can see whether or not it's working or not. So that's really important for those who have an on-site lab, so you can see that data over time. But commercial labs will definitely be using this kind of tool as well. And so if it's important for you to make sure those contamination levels are low, this is the type of technology you should consider, especially if you're also looking at viscosity information or other oil analysis parameter, if this is just one piece of your overall mini lab, such as the mini lab 53 or 153. All this connects to the TrueView 360 Fluid Intelligence platform to bring the data together into a nice report. Okay, so once again, this is a combined technology. Yes, we're getting the particle count and even looking at the shapes and sizes, but we're also getting a PQ or a direct read ferrography for some of the ferrous concentrations. And then we also have this ability to get analytical ferrography, not through the typical microscope manual approaches, but there's almost an expert built within this through the software to categorize these different silhouette particles and tell us what they might mean. So if you're looking for some more information on this product, I suggest reaching out to AMETEK Spectro Scientific or access more information in the link below. With that said, thank you for joining us. We'll see you in the next Nori unboxing.